I listened carefully to yesterday's committee meetings, including the Finance Committee, and I have to say that I found it disturbing for a number of reasons. I heard it said after some significant anti-union rhetoric, and I realize when I say anti-union rhetoric that probably the people who are making these comments don't perceive it themselves as anti-union rhetoric, but certainly those of us who are the targets of those comments do view it as anti-union rhetoric and anti-faculty rhetoric. I heard it said then that we are, quote, all in this together, and I want to make it clear that our faculty and coaches most decidedly do not feel at this time like we are all in it together. We don't feel like we are in it together when we consistently hear rhetoric about the rising costs of professors when the numbers simply just don't bear that out. Again, it may fit an anti-union narrative, but it doesn't fit the facts. The reality is that over the last 5 years, with only a couple of exceptions, the instructional costs at our universities have been either level or have decreased. Instructional costs, which includes salary and benefits, is not a number that the union makes up. It's a number that the system has to report to the federal government. And it also can be verified with the system's own data. We don't feel like we're in it together when faculty are blamed for increased costs, when a look at spending on non-auxiliary capital expenditures shows that at most of our universities, there has been an increase in the proportion of the use of E&G money, that is the money that is used also for instruction, spent on these non-auxiliary capital expenditures. There's a clear mythology to the notion that there is a separate capital budget from the E&G budget. The fact that our association was repeatedly ignored when we pointed out the risks associated with the type of borrowing that was consistently done, and that this board approved that borrowing with nary a question asked, does not make us feel like we are on the same page. We don't feel like we're all in it together when amid the years of an 18% cut and the following years of zero increases, we felt like lonely voices speaking up about the long-term damage that was being done to public higher education. When we feel alone walking in the halls of the legislature, speaking up for our institutions. We do not feel like we are all in it together when we are consistently told that we, the faculty, also need to sacrifice, as if we have not been sacrificing now for many years. It's our faculty and our coaches who have to pick up the pieces when there are less people around who have to serve students because of cuts and attrition. When we are the ones who have to make up for the cuts in student support with additional individualized student attention. When we are the ones coping with larger classes while maintaining rigor. When we are the ones who have seen our department budgets slashed, all the while we are the ones who actually deliver the quality education that you so consistently speak about. We don't feel like we are in it together as shared governance continually gives way to an authoritarian style of decision-making that we repeatedly demonstrate is not undergirded by rationality. We don't feel like we are all in it together when we are still told about the rising cost of healthcare when we know that at least for this upcoming year, those costs have decreased, not increased. We don't feel like we are in it together when faculty and coaches are unfairly and counterfactually attacked during a legislative hearing, and the administration of this system does not correct the record and in some instances abets that misunderstanding. Even worse, at those hearings, there was not a single mention about the need for an increase in state allocation. There was only bragging about how we can do more with less by putting everything on the table. We don't feel like we're in it together when some of the highest paid people in the Commonwealth take pride in proposing cuts to some of the lowest paid members of our organization while they continue to take increases, including, in some cases, double-digit increases. We don't feel like we're in it together when we know that campus budget projections are widely exaggerated. We see that borne out time and time again, and then we're told that we just don't understand budgeting. We do not feel like we're in it together to try and find a resolution to a contract when after 15 months of negotiating a contract the state system suddenly drops 249 changes onto the table at a time when we are saying that we need to reach a resolution and that our students need us to reach a resolution. We don't feel like we're in it together when we believe that these changes that are proposed include multiple things that undercut the quality of public higher education and also hurt our students' prospects. We don't feel like we're in it together when we hear officials beat up on academic disciplines without any clear understanding of the value of those disciplines. We don't feel like we're in it together when there seems to be a consistent push to mimic the private sector, to use corporate jargon, and to downgrade the nobility of public higher education, even as private sector ventures into higher education are proven disastrous on a nearly daily basis. I could continue on this list probably for the next hour, but I will resist the temptation to do so. Needless to say that we don't feel like we are in it together when there is too often clear anti-union and anti-faculty rhetoric that is bandied about in both casual and formal conversation at these meetings and even at Council of Trustee meetings. If we're to move anything close to being in it together, there is a lot of work to be done. My fear is that the time is ticking away too quickly to do that work. We are committed to moving in the direction of working together, but that cannot occur when policy decisions are written in stone before any real conversation begins. Now, I am always available, and I have to give Chairman Bikini credit. We have met several times, but I am always available to talk about things with any member of this board. I am always available to answer questions about this association's perspective on issues and why we take the positions that we take. It is very rare that we have that opportunity or that anyone even inquires about why our perspectives are what they are. But I invite you to come to our campuses. I invite you to listen to our faculty and coaches who I promise you would have a lot to say to you about our institutions, the way they are being run, and certainly the harm that is being done to public higher education. Thank you for your attention.